The Irish Academy of Engineers, and it's the 27th day of April 2025. You're very welcome back. Thank you for a chap there that was listening to the radio last Friday, the 25th, and sent me the text. Apparently he recorded this somewhere or other, I don't know, but this is what was on RTE. On RTE this morning, the 24th of April, Eamon O'Reilly, chairman of Energy Climate Action Committee at the Irish Academy of Engineering, said that Ireland cannot meet its 2030 zero targets, that's zero carbon targets, or 2050 targets. Have you that now? He said the technology is not there. This morning, our energy, he said, was coming from 70% fossil fuels and 70 fossil fuels and 17% renewables. That is something I would take issue with. But anyway, that's just that morning. Oh, certainly on a particular moment, that's correct. But what about over a year? We have only 2-hour battery storage. In other words, he is kind of suggesting that battery storage would be the solution, but I don't think he's actually doing that either. He's more on my side now than anyone else's. We have only 2-hour battery storage capacity at the moment. So that'll promote them now to put more batteries in and more batteries, which is not going to work. After this, the batteries need to be recharged. I mean, he's stating the obvious. Would you believe it? I'd say that Eamon Ryan of the Green Party and the whole Green Party in Ireland and many of the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Sinn Féin don't actually know that you have to charge a battery before you can discharge it. There is no path to net zero electricity, he said. And there's now the Irish Academy of Engineers, and they have had to stand down and do exams and study. And they have relations in the profession. And I often found they'd come to me to know the concept. I remember one lad that's an engineer, he's retired now, I think, and he come to me one day to see how do you design a simple motor, and I made it while we were making the tea. And it run on a spring, a 6-volt spring battery. But he could do the maths, and I got a bit caught with it, but then I had other things on my mind. So anyway, So the path to, he says there's no path to net zero electricity. LNG, he said that must be liquid gas, is it? He said should be brought in. LNG, I think that's liquid petroleum gas, should be brought in. Now, this chap says, I sent you an email with the link, just listen to it. Well, to be honest, I didn't listen to it because I've been dealing with engineers for a long time, and my colleague Pat Swords, who's done so much and put his whole future at risk to try and beat this madness, is a member of the Irish Academy of Engineers. So there isn't really a distance between me, but that's what the man said. Maybe I'll read it again before my battery goes off on the phone here, and what is said again, and I'll just read it to you again. What's been sent to me by that chap that was listening to it is Eamon O'Reilly, chairman of the Energy Climate Action Committee. Or if you're down the south, that's committee. It's a committee, the same vehicle and committee. It's committee up here and vehicle. Anyway, of the Climate Action Committee at the Irish Academy of Engineering said that Ireland cannot meet its 2030 zero targets and 2050 targets either. He said the technology is not there. This morning, our energy, he said, is coming from 70% fossil fuel and 17% renewables. And there'll be imported stuff in that as well, with coal, of course. We have only 2-hour battery storage capacity at the moment. After this, the batteries need to be recharged. There is no path to net zero electricity. He said LNG, should be brought in. I think that's liquid petroleum gas, should be brought in. This chap says, I sent you an email earlier and I haven't read that. Well, there you are. That proper fastens what I'm saying about this. But one of the things that's very important is I would have slight differences that if you measure the contribution of wind and solar into the grid, I'm not talking about putting solar panels on the roof to shave your face. And none of you commented on that I shaved. I shaved on Sunday. That's something. A risky business. long ago we'd be at Mass on a Sunday down the back, and there'd be outlads there, and they'd cut themselves with the Gillette razor, and they'd have a piece of the Irish Independent stuck on it, and there'd have another piece stuck here, it'll be stuck here. there'd be blood coming through, there'd be in at mass, and you'd look over, see, and I'd say, though, had you the hacksaw out this morning? Anyway, I digress. I digress. Anyway, so the thing is, if you measure these, and I'm not talking about solar panels just to shave yourself or warm yourself or warm water. I'm not talking about a wee wind turbine charging a battery to put a light on. It might do it and it might not. That's not the issue. And many people try to confuse those things or conflate them. I am talking about feeding renewables into the grid and being paid by the grid. And that's a simple tax on the consumer because it does nothing at the other end. The grid comes down through transformers, all down from probably the Shannon Estuary and other generators, and it comes down and stepped up and stepped down and everything. And the idea that you can some way affect that by a solar panel on your roof, inverting it back into a higher potential, it's a load of cosmology. But anyway, this is what to think. But what I want to really get at here, the mistake that's been made here is not whether these renewables work or not. They don't. The mistake to be made here is that what's really happening here is that the voters are stupid. And they are not engineers. The ministers and the politicians do not go out to the Academy of Engineers for votes. There wouldn't be any more than 200 in the whole thing. They don't go out to scientists or consultants. They go out to the fellas in the council houses without bumper jackets on them, going down to the pub for a few drinks and putting on a bet on an old nag in Doncaster and talking through their hat. By and large, it's the ordinary old lads and old ones and young lads and young fellas and after women and women looking for men and her heart is broke, he jilted her and all of this. That's who they have to go for their vote for. It's not the Academy of Engineers. In a proper society, and long ago, the government would have experts to advise them and that put forward the opinion of experts. But as time goes on, other bodies like Klaus Schwab, who's now gone and in a bit of bother, and other fellows, they took over this. And they have no education, they just have plenty of money. So they can make plenty of money, die, leave it to their daughter. She hasn't a clue, and she then buys off a politician and gets her product sold or whatever happens. You understand? And so you get a complete breakdown between the scientific reality and the political decision. That's why it's happening. It's the same with Keir Starmer and his Ed Miliband. He's going to block out the sun. Wouldn't you think that in Britain it would be popular to increase the sunshine? But he's going to blot it out to prevent his global warming. Not that long ago since we had floods in July in Britain. How it works, why the voter is even the lower, if we could use it, the working class or the non-working class, why they can't see that, I don't know. Why can a bus driver not take a minute to examine it? I don't know. Why can a nurse, why can a housewife or a couple or even a gay couple, surely they can see that they need the electricity. They need the light there. It's nice to have it. They want the telly. What's it running? Surely they want an efficient supply of electricity at a reasonable cost. But these idiots have got a hold of the purse strings, a hold of the government. Greta Thunberg, a 16-year-old schoolgirl dropout with no physics education whatsoever, comes and gets addressing the German Parliament and the British Parliament and all other and the Irish Parliament, and gets a royal reception to sprout what is ultimately a religion. It used to be that the Catholic religion, the Protestant religion, the Jewish religion, the Muslim religion, and the Hindu religion, they had a wee say now and again with the politicians on matters that affected them. That wasn't a problem. But now the climate religion, they can set the whole tone, the whole promise, the whole spending. It was estimated that to reach net zero in Britain, and I say it cannot be done, would take all the copper, cobalt and steel mined in the world in a year. So that would mean everyone else would have to do without copper, iron and cobalt. Everyone else in the whole world. Only Britain would get the supply for a full year to get it on the road to doing this. I maintain it's a serious mistake to think that you can change the laws of thermodynamics, that you can create energy out of nothing, which is the wind, by having enough cable, by putting cables everywhere. A big cable, north, south, east, west, diagonal, over across. Millions and billions of tons, the equivalent of 50 big container ships in metal, in steel alone, without assessing what you do. You only get out what you put in. And with the Irish grid or any other grid, you have to have a constant supply of electricity. And nobody has yet said it. And the Academy of Engineers stand criticised by me for this. You still need 36% of your electricity to come from fossil fuel or nuclear fuel. Otherwise, the more of this junk you put on and bill it to the bill payer, the dearer the bill gets. So if the government approves some type of a hydrogen generation system and funds it, and it's built and it fails, the bill payer is left keeping them running. This stuff of having silage and grass converted into some kind of a gas to drive electricity, and this is happening in the north and it's happening in Mayo and other parts of Ireland. This has never been tested. It's a load of nonsense. But that's all hoisted on the bill payer. I was talking to a lassie was down from Dublin. She has a flat in Dublin and they have individual meters. And I got her to calculate the cost of her electricity, and she says it's 70 cents a unit. The cost of a unit on my house back in 2014 was 14.6 a unit. And then they tell us cut down on electricity. And she is hit with a low consumption charge. So if she doesn't use enough electricity, they put a higher tariff on her. They increase the standing charge. Folks, can you see what I'm saying? They're advertising how to run efficient use of electricity, how to cut down on your bill by using less. And they fine you when you use less. Can I say any more? Is there any of the lefties out there, and I always pin this wouldn't happen were it not for the glorious ideas of the left-wing Luthermans, the ones that have destroyed Russia with their communist revolution, Cuba and all. It's the left-wing, it's the failure to understand the realities of this world and how it works that has led to the whole left-wing agenda. AOC Cortez in America. Them idiots, Chuck Schumer. It's the ignorance that is manifested. And you see them responding to me here down underneath they can't even write the things simple. Okay? So that's a fact. They are trying to persuade people to cut down on electricity, and when they don't use enough, they fine them on the standing charge. And I will try and inquire and post underneath what company that girl is with, because I didn't think of asking her yesterday. I was busy. All right, so there's the Academy of Engineers saying this can't work. They'll plough ahead with it. They'll plough ahead. The decision on this is not made with the engineering profession. It's made in the housing estates in Ballybay, in Ballymahan, in Ballyhaunis, in Ballymote, where a crowd of them sitting up there in their houses, and they come down and they vote, Fianna Fáil, sure, he got me grandfather this old house in 1962, we better vote for them. Right? And old fogies, and they're supposed to know about the electricity grid. There seems to be no connection in the Irish government and the reality of engineering. By right, a sensible Irish government should now ask the engineers what's the story. One thing they can't get away with is I have made submissions. I must have made 100 submissions to the various public consultations. I'll bet I'm probably the only one here on all of my subscribers, and I have nearly 10,000 now, and I'm very thankful to you. I'm the only one who's made them. I made a submission last month there on the Arts Convention. And I notified a few people so they got them in as well. And they're told about how they're breaking the law. Will it matter? Not a bit. Not a bit. Not a bit. I think Oisin Conklin of Friends of the Earth, he gets 500,000 a year to his company. I think he made something kind of on my lines. I mean, eventually you'd think the reality will have to break through. And this is why it's so refreshing to have Trump. Trump knows this is a scam, but it doesn't take a lot of brains to understand. You cannot generate a mains consistent 24/7, 7, 8, 7, 6, 0 hours in the year from the sun and the wind. That is not possible. And anyway, when you put the windmills too close together, one of them takes the power of the other. And there's two big offshore wind planning applications in, and they're whinging that they're too close, that one is going to rob them of the power of another. No assessment done. Absolutely nothing. The girl in the planning office in Carlow is deciding this, and all she ever did was an arts degree in Galway. Or in Cork or somewhere else. No training on the electrical engineering. And you could actually get the girls in Cork County Council giving planning permission to a nuclear power station. Isn't that something? And then it goes up to Board Planol on appeal, and they have nobody qualified in nuclear physics either, and they just look at it all and take whatever the developer says. Sure, it must be all right. And I've seen things refused permission on stupid grounds, and I've seen things granted permission where there was obviously good grounds to stop it. It's just an idiocracy where ignorance rules the world. And that's why you see the wars breaking out. Because a war is the result of ignorance in 99% of cases. Because if the country prepared for invasion, nobody would invade them. So the preparation to have your country strong from an invasion will deter an aggressor. But look at what's happening now. All spent on climate change, and now there's a big rush to build arms, to build military. That rush should have been 10 years ago, and the diplomacy needed to stop wars should have been invoked. None of it was. Why? Because we're in a total idiocracy, and because, unfortunately, people have a vote who don't have a clue and have no guidance and are told lies. And we're given lies from radio, television. Oh, this wind farm will power 300,000 homes, when not one house was ever powered by a wind farm, by a wind turbine. It can't be done. And yet they spew these lies, and then the government appoints regulators to make sure they tell the truth, and they back them up as well. 17 minutes, I didn't do too bad. That's the Irish engineers, folks, Irish Academy of Engineers. The net zero can't be achieved, but they can break us doing it. And they're doing it because they know they'll get the votes, whether they do it or whether they don't. That's the reality. That's the big question. Good luck. We'll see you back soon. Thank you.